Hi guys, Olga ARTvent here and welcome to ARTvent. It's day one and today we are making Christmas box with little scene behind the glass. So if you are wondering how I did it, keep on watching. I already started this project and then I realized that it's not recording, so yay! But anyway, I will go to the lid part in 1 minute. First, I'm taping the lid into the bottom part of the box, and then I will cover whole sides with this amazing lace border from SnipArt. And when you apply glue on your chipboard and leave it just for a while, not long enough for it to dry, but it will go inside the chipboard and it will soften it a little bit so you can bend it without breaking it on those parts when you have to bend. So I will have one constant line of border all over my box, and every time I'm just putting a piece of painter's tape just to hold the chipboard in place before it will bend with the box. Using a white glue on paper mache and chipboard will make it it somehow make it one piece. It's really impossible to remove those parts once they glued and dry. And on the lid I did exactly the same thing I'm doing right now. I put like a big chipboard lace and some snowflake chipboards and link to all the products you will find in the description box, together with link to my blog post about ARTvent, because I'm planning to post every day since today till Christmas Eve. Some days it will be process video or tutorial like today, and sometimes it will be Facebook Live, and the first Facebook Live will be on Monday. So all the links and info you will find in the description box. I glued together two pieces of chipboard, and the same thing I did with this big snowflake that you can see on the lid already. With binding two pieces of chipboard with white glue, I get really nice and sturdy piece, and then I covered everything with Tommy chalk paint, and I really like those paints. They give you nice cover with the first layer, and through it's only chipboard with the glue and paint and wax that I will add at the end. Whole piece is quite sturdy and not fragile at all. You will see that I'm rubbing it hard later on to remove excess of paint and wax, and nothing comes off, nothing fell down. So only thing that you have to keep in mind is that all the parts have to dry between the layers. If you don't get enough cover with your paints, then you have to apply 2 layers and dry it really nice between each layer. And right now you can see the paint. It's Tommy chalk paint and it's perfect. Look how nice it covers this really dark metal shade on my elements, and it will stay on everything, on metal, on wood, on plastic. You can cover whatever you want and you will have really nice chalky finish. I really like those paints, especially to the vintage kind of works, because of the finish of paint. It's hard to describe. I hope that it's visible enough on photos that they react beautifully, and they are just really good chalk paints. All those elements that you can see, it's just all jewelry trinket that I covered the glass with washi tape for painting, and inside this element I put little metal deer and some winter photo. I added some ground with moss for my deer, and I think that whole piece looks really, really good. I'm sticking everything with gel medium and other elements that you can see. It's some resin swirl and some snowflakes that I have from my molds. It's a mold print, colored with the same paint. Everything is basically in the same shade of really light vintage green. And I'm stacking my all my elements with gel medium on the top of my lid. I added a silver frame around my deer and metal Ingrid element to finish the composition, and I left it for a dry. It's really important that everything dries naturally. Don't speed it up with heat gun. And you can see how it looks before I added vintage accents. So for the first stage of aging the box, I'm using a 30 knots vivid vintage paint, and I apply it generously and heavily all over the box. And I want to have really nice coat and all elements covered, but you don't have to be really precise with that. For me, the most important thing was to cover whole composition and each of those deep holes that I have over there in this lacy construction. And all the rest I'm just covering so just to have some brown stuff over there, because we will wipe out most of this paint, so you don't have to be really precise unless you want to. You can see that I'm just throwing this paint on my piece and leave it for it dry again. Now when it's dry, you can see that it's not so pretty yet, so I'm taking my baby wipe and I'm wiping out the excess of paint. So I'm removing this paint from each area that I don't want to be covered with paint. Basically, my goal is to have natural vintage look. So all the deepest area will be really dark and all the dimensional elements on top will be lighter. When you remove the most of paint, you can work a little bit on smooth finish, but I'm not worried about it at all because I will use also vintage wax to add first of all finishing layer, because wax will seal whole my project, and second of all I want to have this smooth transition and like retro vintage look. Here in the real time you can see how easy and how nice effect will give you this wiping out technique. So now the second stage of aging my project, it's brown wax, and it's also Tommy's product. And waxes were one of the first products that I fell in love with this brand, and then there were chalk paints, and I think that it's a perfect combo to use his paints and his wax, because I know how it will work, and it will work every time with every color. You can have perfect shabby effect. So I apply this brown wax all over my project, but I'm not so generous as I was with the paint, because with wax it's a little bit more complicated to remove it. To remove paint, we needed only wet cloth or baby wipe and some pressure and patience. To remove wax, you need something waxy. So to remove the brown wax, we will use clear wax, and it's a process. The best option is just to take a soft cloth and clear wax and wipe out some areas, but I have a lot of wax to remove and my composition is really intricate. So with really soft brush, I applied the clear wax all over the dried project. When brown wax will dry, it's a little bit harder to remove. When you work on not so dried wax, it's a little bit easier. I'm applying generous amount of this clear product. It's a little bit smelly, but the smell will disappear when everything will be dry. So I'm applying it with really soft brush, and you can see that I picked up a little bit of this brown layer, but then I go with really soft cloth. It's a piece of old towel, and I'm rubbing. You don't need to add a lot of pressure, but you just need to work on those areas until you're happy with the result. You don't have to be really gentle, but adding pressure will not change anything, and you can damage your project. So to remove this brown layer, I'm using just soft pressure, and I'm patiently working with rotating motion to have really nice texture and finish on my project. And why we're using wax? We could do it with vintage paints. Yes, we could do it with the vintage paints, just apply a little bit less of them. But as I said before, wax will seal whole my project. Now you can see how the finished piece look like. We have a little leftover from the cloth. It have really nice vintage feeling, like shabby touch to it. I'm really happy with the result, and on the photos you can see maybe a little bit better. But I hope that my new lighting makes the colors really okay. So this was the first project of my ARTvent calendar, and I was featuring 30 knots, Tommy, and SnipArt products. And all the links will be in the description box. And if you didn't subscribe to my channel, please do it to be updated not only through whole December, but also during whole next year. Thank you so much, and I wish you a nice and creative day.